Welcome to the Learning Reinvented Podcast, brought to you by myself, Katie Godden, and the team at The Learning Effect. There are lots of learning podcasts out there, so we wanted to do something slightly different. This week, we're talking about leadership and business growth. I'm delighted to welcome Meghnand to the podcast. Thank you for joining me. Would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure, Katie. Thank you very much for having me here. To introduce myself, my name is Meghnand Dungarwal. I am a business coach, a leadership coach. My friends and my clients call me as a friend or philosopher and guide. They call me best friend because the best friend's role is to point out the strengths and weaknesses both, good things and mistakes both. That is what my role as a coach and mentor for my clients. I operate out of India. I serve companies and clients and individuals in India as well as outside India, especially in the Europe, Americas, and Middle East region.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your clients and your business?
Sure. My business name is Soonyas, Shonyas. That is our company's name. It is a coaching and management consulting firm. The exact meaning of the term shunyas means zeros. And we have intentionally selected this name to demonstrate that we add zeros in people's and business life. Adding zeros is our role as a coach. By coaching and consulting, we help our clients multiply their businesses, their revenues, their bottom line, top line, and their impact in the society, especially on their customers and their employees, both. That is our work. The purpose that we have started this organization was to make a positive impact across. The kind of client that we serve can be broadly summarized in three categories. Number one, they are businesses wanting to grow, wanting to expand, and make a larger impact. That is a business category of our clients. And then we do serve individuals who want to increase their personal impact. They have a larger good in their minds and hearts. They are our individual clients. And number three, we do coach institutions, especially many NGOs, non-governmental organizations, who want to make further impact on the society. And through our coaching work, we help them make better impact. So largely these three categories of our clients, Katie, we can summarize.
So do you have clients come to you that are from similar industries and similar challenges that they're facing, whether that's from an organizational point of view or an individual point of view? So is it just that they're looking to grow themselves and create growth within their business, or are there other challenges that they're facing?
Wow, this is a very interesting question. In fact, the challenges are very varied. We have got few clients, they are absolutely struggling with very typical problems like, say, growth, revenue growth, top line growth. There are few clients, they are growing, but they don't have right systems in place, right platform in place. There are few clients who come to us saying that we have grown, we have good client base, but there is a lot of misalignment in our teams. So can you help us align our leadership team to a common vision? And there are few individual clients who come to us saying that I am feeling lost. I need to reignite my vision and my purpose for my own life. So the problems are many, Katie, and I, being a chartered accountant myself, we understand business problems, right from the numbers to their strategies, and on top of everything, the human side of things as a coach.
I think it's really great that you've got that mixture of your experience of being an accountant, but then equally you've got that human element as well, especially in that sort of industry, because it's quite difficult to sometimes find that. As a leader, how do you approach learning and development with your clients?
So learning and development in our view is not a special function. It is not a special department to say. Learning and development is a part and parcel of the everyday life at work, especially in businesses, organizations, wherein learning should happen on ground every single day. So that is the mantra, or that is the philosophy that we carry. As a coach, of course, we fast track that process of learning and development by igniting that passion for learning, that aptitude for learning. That is our role as a coach. But if you ask me, Katie, about learning and development as a role, it is quite ingrained in the day-to-day life of uh, any professional when he or she is at work.
Yeah, so I think because you're working with people that are wanting to change, then the learning and development side of things kind of comes naturally, I guess, for you, because in order to make those changes, you need to learn things and develop yourselves anyway. In regards to leadership, why do you think that's really important when you're growing your business or you're growing yourself in a business as well?
Now, I have one interesting thought to share. First of all, here is how does a business grow ultimately? I mean, if you really go into the depth of this matter, what are the ingredients of growth? Katie, if I may ask a slightly more reflective question here for both of us.
Yeah. So do you mean as in growing sales or
Absolutely. So
growing
growing
culture?
sales,
Mm.
growing culture, growing sales. Anything else that comes to your mind, Katie?
Growing awareness
Growing awareness of the brand, right?
of the brand. Yeah, brand awareness. Um,
Growing
I think you could grow
awareness
at
about
everything.
brand awareness, everything. Thank you so much. So there itself, the secret lies. A business grows not only just based on one parameter. A business needs to grow 360-degree holistically, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that needs a mindset which can grasp things faster. Number one. Number two, a mindset which can adapt to the changing needs faster. And number three, a mindset which can predict things in advance. That is also equally important. So, Katie, to answer a question which is about learning and development, I would like to expand the answer to even cover the mindset more than anything else. A mindset which can understand the needs of the market, a mindset which can come up with the solution to solve the needs of that market. And number three, mindset which can even predict the future needs of the market. So if this is a combined solution, then nothing can stop the business growth. Isn't it, Katie? What do you think about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're focusing on one thing, so like I started off answering your question with sales, and I think that's pretty naive. I think that's what we naturally assume when you think of business growth. You think that it's becoming more lucrative. But I don't think you can't become more lucrative unless you change those other things. So that's why I got to everything eventually, because without those other things changing and improving, you're not going to make that impact ultimately on your sales, are you? So I think yeah, you've got to change your mindset in order to be able to change that. And I think if you're approaching it from a business point of view and you're doing the same thing, and you're not getting the desired outcome that you'd like, those changes need to be made, and you need to change your mindset in order to achieve those desired outcomes. Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same outputs.
Absolutely. Bang on, Katie. And that's why the role of learning and development to say learning or development in order to expand the mindset is the whole purpose of L&D. The more expansion you have in your mindset, the better opportunities you can grasp in the market. And you can make really real-time changes to adapt and to serve the market. So for us, Katie, Our approach is more than anything else. We give focus on the skill set and the mindset, both in our learning and development approach.
So when your clients come to you with the challenges, do you then adapt what service you're providing them based on their requirements? So obviously, it might be business growth, but as we've just discussed, that could be a particular area of that, or it could be the whole thing. So it might be that they want to increase brand awareness, sales, or whatever that might be. So are all of your clients kind of bespoke as opposed to kind of providing the same sort of training and development, I guess, or same sort of guidance for each of your clients?
Now, this is interesting. Katie, as I was mentioning, I come from an accounting and auditing background, right? So we apply some of those principles that we have practiced over the years in our coaching and consulting approach. What is that key approach? We call it as why approach. Now, what does it mean? So whenever my client comes to me and shares a problem and they need solution or they need to resolve this problem, they need to overcome this problem, our approach, first of all, is to ask why. Then ask further why. Say, for example, somebody comes and say, we are not growing for last 3 years. We want to grow now in next 3 years. This is a problem statement. As a coach, our role is, of course, to understand their problem, but not give much importance to the problem itself. Our role is to go underneath. So we say, okay, we hear you. Why have we not grown? Okay, possibly because there is a lot of competition in the market. Our next approach is not to stop there. Our approach does not stop with the problem. We should go underneath the problem. Why we have not grown? Because there is a lot of competition. Why we have not addressed the competition in advance? What stopped us? Because we didn't have resources. Okay. Why have we not planned in advance? Could we not gather the resources in advance by predicting the market force? So once you start going into the depth of the problem, there are good chances we hit the right nail for our clients. And that's where our work begins. Then the focus is not on the problem, the focus is on the solution of the problem. So generally, Katie, I say, our role as a coach is not to give answers or to give the solutions. First of all, the role is to help our clients identify the right problem first. Because once the problem is right, then finding the solution makes a lot of sense, isn't it?
No, definitely. I completely agree. I run the Learning Effect. So we're a small learning consultancy. But when we're speaking to our clients, lots of people, similar to what you've just said as well, come to us and they say, look, I want to do this. But it's generally because there is a need for it, but sometimes it's because they've seen other people doing it. Some of our clients come to us and they ask for a particular requirement, but they're not entirely sure why they actually need that. And we always roll it back up to the purpose and ultimately the goal of what the organization is trying to achieve as well. So we try and keep that aligned. So similar to what you're doing to understand the solution to the problem, we're trying to do the same and trying to those conversations at the beginning of when you start working with a client are really, really important to get underneath to really find out what your client's actually trying to achieve and what their ultimate outcome is as well.
Absolutely, Katie. In fact, once you start uncovering the problem rightly, the clients get some hope that, okay, my problem is clear to me now, because they are overwhelmed, right? They're overwhelmed. They're not able to even identify the right problem statement. What it is the right cause, what is actually the right cause to address is the first role of a coach and consultant. That is what we do. And then the further steps is more about getting their validations, their buy-ins to the solution, and ultimately moving to the solutions one by one.
So when we're talking about business growth and growing businesses, what is the role of leadership to help achieve that?
Now, role of leadership. It's an interesting angle to business growth. Uh, Growth happens where is first question that we need to understand. First of all, growth happens in the mind. You think something, then you evaluate all the possibilities around it, then you make a plan, then you execute the plan, and then you see the results. This is what a journey for any organization, for any individual's growth. Now, where comes the leadership here? Leadership comes right from the stage of thinking. So, in my opinion, leadership acts like a brain for the organization who thinks. So thinking is the role of the leadership, first of all, for the organization. And that is possible only if the leadership is mindful about their real role. And that's where, Katie, I see a lot of mistakes happening when I coach a lot of businesses around in India as well as internationally. When the leadership is involved too much in day-to-day operations, in day-to-day deliveries, then they are really not using their real role of acting like a brain for the company because they are only working through their hands.
Why do you think leaders do that? Do you think it's because they haven't had the right guidance or mentorship to be strong leaders? Or do you think it's because they're not trusting in their staff that are meant to be doing that kind of day-to-day role? What do you think the challenges are around that, and why do you think that happens?
This is absolutely multifaceted problem. The first problem statement, why leaders do that is number one, they have prepared themselves so much for execution roles over the years. And when the time comes to pass the baton, they hold back. So number one problem statement which I observe is not passing on the baton to the next level now when it is needed. Number one.
So do you think, because we're obviously like before people go into leadership roles most of the time, they're kind of doing those day-to-day roles like you said, and they're preparing for that. Do you think when you do go into those roles, you automatically need to get that guidance, coaching, mentorship, whatever that might be, training, to be able to fulfill the requirements of it? Do you think that people aren't necessarily understanding their role? But they like the job title and they like the promotion potentially, but they're not necessarily understanding the requirements to do that role?
Very nice question again. So to put it this way, leaders are comfortable in doing things over the years. They get the sense of doing things that gives them that the comfort. Okay, I'm doing something worthwhile. Here the focus is on the word doing. However, after a point in time, the sense of doing needs to get converted into the sense of enabling. And therefore, to transition from that sense of doing to sense of enabling, you need a coach or a mentor or a guide who can point out that, okay, these are the roles now you need to pass on. These are the roles you need to keep to yourself right now. No worries. And how do you do that? By doing one, two, three things over next period of time. So an objective party, a third party, objective, neutral, uninfluenced by your position, uninfluenced by your background, your experiences, can help you identify those blind spots as a leader. That is the role of a coach, Katie, for the leader. To help that leader understand, now you are leading, you are not executing things. You need to pass on certain things by enabling your next in line team, and you need to keep one, two, three things only with you.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were speaking about earlier in regards to that mindset change. I think it's really difficult for people, especially if you've been doing a particular role for years, and kind of giving up those responsibilities that you had. I think that's quite a difficult thing for people to get their heads around, because it might seem to yourself that you're doing perhaps less in your role, because you're in that kind of enabling guidance role as opposed to that doing role. But really you're impacting, you're just doing it in a more strategic way. So rather than kind of looking productive on a production line or whatever that might be, you're actually there enabling other people to be able to do that and do that in a really good way.
Very true. Absolutely, Katie. In fact, then you need more different skills altogether. Till now, some skills were enough. More, more about execution skills or on-ground skills, building skills were enough. Now you need a different skill set altogether, different competencies altogether. Now you need to think strategically. You need to expand your commercial awareness, market awareness. You need to start developing next line of leaders. That is a different skill set altogether. And most importantly, Katie, in my experiences over the years, even as a consultant, as a coach, and I have traveled the path right from the fresher in a large consulting firm to a partner. So I have seen the stages and I have experienced in all the stages, your thinking and approach needs to expand. In my opinion, Katie, a leader needs to trust more and more. So this can be
No,
a
I
point
can.
of further elaboration, Katie.
Yeah, I completely agree with you in regards to the trusting side of things, because working both internally and then obviously for my own business, you can see the leaders that haven't entrusted their staff, and the struggles that they face compared to those leaders that have trust within their staff. I think that there's a big difference, and you can see the performance side of things as well. What do you think on that?
Very true. And I think it's such a great aspect to really delve upon. Trust. When I say trust, Katie, as you rightly pointed out, trusting on the people. That is number one. Trusting on the people that, okay, now they are getting ready. They can even make some mistakes. They have certain strengths and there are certain weaknesses. Let me trust them on the areas of their own strengths, number one. And let me build certain systems, some processes, which can really complement some of the areas of their weaknesses so that ultimately business does not suffer. That is a trusting aspect on juniors or your team members. Now, there is another level of trust, which is equally important for the leader, that is trusting yourself, Katie.
Yeah.
When you say trusting yourself, it means because as a leader, things are not always in black and white. You will have a lot of gray questions in front of you to answer. And that's where the real test of the leader comes into picture. How well you can think objectively, you can deal with the uncertainty, and ultimately trust your decision. So trust on
Definitely.
your own self is equally important, along with trusting with your team members.
I think that's one of the things that you need to learn and change when you do go into that role, because when you're in a lower role, you've kind of got your day set out for you. You know what your job is, you know it inside out. If you're established in that role, obviously. However, when you move into that leadership role, every day you're potentially facing things, like you said, that are a bit more grey. So it's not so black and white. So I think that's a big part of shifting that mindset, and like you said, trusting yourself. But I think the bit coming back into kind of trusting other people as well is, like you mentioned, I think it's letting people fail and letting people do things in a different way. That's something that I've always found when I've worked in organizations, is people go into these roles or have a particular way of doing something. And then if someone does it slightly differently, people then struggle with that. But ultimately, my mindset's always been, if you're getting the right outcome, I don't care which way you're doing it. If you can do it 10 times faster than what I can, go ahead. You know, like, you want to create that efficiency. And I think you build that trust in people to then give them that opportunity to do that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can call it as freedom within framework. Wherein the role of the leader is actually to build the framework, a broad framework wherein you need to actually think and act within this framework, and then give the freedom to your team that, okay, they can experiment, they can actually think slightly different, they can come up with new ideas, because that is where innovation lies ultimately. When you give some freedom, the fresh ideas come on table. So the role of the leadership, Katie, is actually building the right framework, number one. And number two, then trusting your team to actually operate within that framework with more freedom.
And that's how I've always approached things when I've been in the more leadership roles. Where do you think the future of leadership is going? So in regards to training, how we're going to approach leaders, etc.
I see, Katie, the future is very different, very, very different than the past. Now, of course, the present has some glimpse of the future, which means a leadership which is open-minded, number one, learning-minded, number two, and number three, trusting mindset. So I see the leadership of tomorrow is more open, more growth-minded, and more innovation-minded. Now, I have a reason to actually say this, because tomorrow is not as same as yesterday and even today. Tomorrow is going to be more uncertain, more complex, slightly more ambiguous problems to solve for your industry, for your respective markets, for your respective customer segments. And to address these kind of problems, you need a lot of innovation, continuous innovation in your businesses, respective businesses. So if you need innovation in your business as an outcome, you need innovation as a culture. And innovation as a culture can be set only when the leaders are having innovative mindsets. So they cannot operate with a fixed mindset going forward. Number two, I see a leadership which is absolutely close to the market on ground. Gone are those days when leaders can simply think and strategize sitting in the boardroom. These days are gone now, because the market is changing so fast. The needs of the customers are changing so fast. Their expectations are changing so fast. You cannot just simply imagine and think the solution. And therefore, the leadership needs to be more grounded. So I see a different trend altogether now. A leader who is more on the ground, closer to your customers, closer to the clients, closer to the real people, so that you can understand their real problems and find solutions which can become your business opportunity ultimately. So the number two aspect of future of leadership is more closer to the market and more closer to the customers. Now I come to the third aspect of future of leadership, Katie. That is about more emotionally resilient leadership. What does that mean? That simply means leaders who are more centered, who are more resilient to a lot of changes which are going to happen tomorrow. So gone are those days again that you take a decision and everything will happen as per your plan. Now the leadership needs more emotionally resilient mindset, even to handle unexpected developments in your plans, some unexpected changes in your plan, unexpected needs of your customers, And that needs lot of stability in your mind. So I see the future of leadership is more, frankly speaking, Katie, more challenging and demanding on the leader's side, because they need to be very centered and stable within. Does it make sense, Katie?
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think you need to be more resilient, innovative, open to those ideas purely because the way that things are changing and the speed that things are changing? Because obviously we've got like technology, you've got the introduction of things like AI, etc., and like they're moving at pace. So do you think that's one of the reasons why those changes and challenges are happening quicker, and why people need to be more aware of those?
Absolutely, Katie. I think you spelled it so nicely. These are the actual causes. The AI, the machine learning, the new way of doing things, and the solutions or the alternatives that our customers already have. So things are going to be slightly more challenging and demanding for businesses of tomorrow. And ultimately, if they are going to be challenging for the businesses, the first and foremost stakeholder is the leader. And that's why we need more emotionally resilient leaders for tomorrow. We cannot have a leader who cannot handle uncertainty.
Think in regards to kind of getting things wrong, people are going to have to be more accepting of that as well, because I think I've thought about this a lot recently as well, with this, like I just mentioned, the speed of how things are kind of evolving, and changes that are made constantly. I think accepting that getting something wrong is totally fine. But then I think your
Mm,
skills in understanding the business, I think that's where these things are going to become even more important, because you need to understand
mm,
then the risk that it's going to take on the business potentially. Because I think when everything's coming at a million miles an hour at you, um, finding the right avenue and making sure you're going down the right road is going to be even more harder, because there's more paths to choose. But then obviously, understanding the risk, the impact on the business is going to be essential as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. We can summarize it in 3A formula, Katie. That is, first A is aware. Leader needs to be aware of what is happening around me, what is happening on ground, what is happening in my competition zone, what is happening in my customer zone. So that awareness is the first step. Second step is acceptance. Once you are aware, you accept few things. Okay, this is the change. I cannot do anything about it. I need to simply accept the change, first of all. And that's where emotionally resilient leader can really outstand vis-a-vis others, Katie. And number three, once you accept the change, then you can adapt much faster. That, okay, this is the change I see. We have not prepared for it. Now let me address this. Let me adapt to this new change from my customer side, from my employee side, my team side, my other stakeholders side, even change within me, which has happened over the time. I need to accept it first of all, and then try to address it. What can I do about it now? What solutions do I have? What alternatives do I have as a leader? So aware, accept, and adapt is the future of leadership, Katie.
Definitely. I think that's great. And I think that's a great way to end this podcast. So thank you so much for joining me today. If people want to connect with you, and follow your story and find out more about what you do, how do they go about doing so?
Thank you, first of all, Katie, for having me here. I mean, it was my pleasure to share some of my thoughts, and you have actually added some more perspectives, interesting perspectives in the conversation. So thanks for that. To all the viewers and listeners for your podcast, Katie, I will suggest they can reach out to me either on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn profile with name Meghnand Dungarwal. I have a website named Meet Meghnand, MEEGHNAND.com. And we have our business website with the name Soonyas. The website name is www.shononyas.com, Soonyas.com. So these are 3 ways, Katie, the viewers and listeners can definitely get in touch with me, and we would be happy to help them in any way possible.
Thank you so much again, Meghnand, and I'll put all of those links that you've mentioned in our show notes below so people will be able to click on those. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Learning Reinvented podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you've not already done so, please follow our podcast. And if the learning effect can help you and your organisation, please do get in touch. You can find both James and Katie on LinkedIn, and our contact details are in the show notes below.